ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Check this out, we got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and thank you. It is another Monday. You made it through the weekend, another step closer to the NFL start. About 10 days from now? Thursday night, we will have some action, Philly, Dallas, and then Friday night from Brazil, we'll have Kansas City and the Chargers. Had some Week 0 college football. Me and Scotty was talking backstage there. Week 1 this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. College games around the clock. So it's here, but we're not going to push baseball out, and which has been the forefront for me and Scotty here for the last 5 months or so. So first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. AtlantaSteaksandSeafood.com. Go to Facebook, introduce yourself to Terry Smith, and then come on back to AtlantaSteaksandSeafood.com. Steaks, seafood, chops, appetizers, wine. Terry's got it all. 4 subscription plans as well. Set it and forget it. Every 30 days, have a box of protein delivered to your front door. Terry's the best in the business. I promise you. I got freezer full of steaks, chops, everything. My grill, it never shuts off. I promise you on that. So take a look at that. And we have some breaking news. I'm going to save it, though. We have a new proud sponsor, good friend of ours, a longtime family member, Mr. Chris Viali of Cambridge Credit Union. We're going to be debuting some commercial and a good opportunity for people that are struggling financially, maybe credit card debt and stuff, to jump on board and to start saving a lot of money and get back on track. So we'll be breaking that soon. So without further ado, Mr. Scotty Webb. What's up, Scott?
Hey, morning, Jeff. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. There's only 30 games left, 31, 30, 32 for these teams. And, like I said before, whatever the standings are today, that's what they're going to be 30 days from now, in terms of who's in. Now, they might be in different spots, like the Dodgers and the Padres might flip-flop back and forth and, stuff like that. But here in a second, we'll go through and tell you what's necessary for these teams to get in. In the American League, the Royals and I think the Guardians, the wild card wise, I think one team's 3.5 back, one's 5 back or something like that. And in the National League, it's already over. If you're not within 5 games, it's over. And I know that sounds harsh, but think about it this way. How many teams can go 20-10 the rest of their way? And even if they do go 20-10, the teams that are in front of them, if they go 15-5, that's the 5 games. You follow me? That's the 5 games. And those teams that are ahead of them are going to go at least 15-5. They might go 16-14 or 17-13 or whatever. And some of those teams that like Kansas City, for example, right? Kansas City's trying to catch the bottom end of the American League, which is Seattle at this point. And Seattle's strength of schedule left is ranked 22nd out of 30 teams. So they're the 8th easiest to get there. And their toughest opponents, they play the Dodgers 3 times, the Padres 3 times, the Astros 3 times, and the Royals 3 times. Okay, great. So the Royals at least get to play them. But the Royals, they are Kansas City. They're 18th, and they got to play Detroit, Philadelphia, Toronto, and Seattle. So even at the lowest end, because the next group batch is what? The Yankees and then Boston, right? So the Yankees have the 27th easiest schedule and Boston the 20th. All of those teams that they're trying to catch have easier schedules than what Kansas City does. And if that's the case, and Kansas City goes out and goes 20-10, those other teams are not going to go 15-15. They're going to go 16, 17, and 13. So I don't think they're going to be able to catch them. So that's my point. My point basically is Kansas City is the only one that I think has a legitimate chance to maybe make up those 3 games. Everybody else, Jeff, I think is done. Like the National League's already over. Those teams in the National League are not going to get there. The National League, I think, was, if I'm not mistaken, it's the Reds, and they're 1.5 games. 1.5. Well, the Reds have to play. Get this. The Reds have the 2nd most difficult schedule remaining. Of the 30, they play 31 games. 3 against the Brewers, 4 against the Cubs, 3 against the Blue Jays, 3 against the Dodgers, 3 against the Padres, and 3 against the Mets. I get it. They got to play the Mets. But the Mets, they have where are they? The Mets. Well, they got the 4th hardest schedule, so maybe it's a little closer. But I still don't think they're going to catch them. Now the Reds can pitch, they just can't hit, and at this point the Mets can hit, they just can't pitch. So we'll see how that all kind of plays out. But there you go. The Reds are in a spot like they play the Dodgers now. So good luck with that, especially out in LA.
What was this weekend in a nutshell? I think what you really need to look at was 2 big series, of course. Boston and the Red Sox. The Sox, win the first 3, and the numbers said that Yankees would not get swept 4 in a row and that they would cover the run line. Of course, I left that on the desk. Made sure all the ECSI VIPs knew I left that one on the desk. May had showed some flashes, but when your average, walks too many guys. And why is he walking too many guys? Because his fastball's at 92-ish. Last time we said someone throwing 92-ish was a soft tosser. We got blown up, What do you mean a soft tosser? But my point is Sox did what they had to do. But, I mean, listen, I've been defending this Dodger team just because I'm a numbers guy. And this is my point why I'm defending them. When we go back to April and they were projected to win the West by 16.5 games, not 6.5, 16.5 games. And my buddy in Montana's book had a prop that says Dodgers minus 8.5 games versus the West. It was an 8, CLV, whatever you want to call it. He had an 8-game miss. And he fired. My point is, I keep saying, on paper, which means squadouche, you know this and I know this. This team will not look the same each week, never mind each month. I'm going to say, I still would not be shocked if they won the division by 5 or 6. I know you're going to counter and say that's not going to happen, Jeff. I get it. But my point is, with the Zach Wheeler out for the year, here's how I break down the National League, Scotty. It's whoever's standing on the Dodgers side for their starting pitching, whoever's healthy, okay? And we know they got a list this long. Versus the Phillies back end. Now there's a hole with no Zach Wheeler. But pound for pound, the best team in the National League is the Padres, because if you're not leading after 5, you're not going to beat them.
Well, the thing about the Padres, and now they're tied with the Dodgers, and this is a flaw in Major League Baseball on all these teams, to be honest. They can't win on the road. They just like you just saw it. San Diego got swept in LA, and LA won the last game, but they could have been swept in San Diego. I mean, these teams don't win on the road. So the Dodgers, I guess the way I would describe it is this: the Dodgers have the guys that have been there, the guys that have done it, the guys that will be there and be able to do it again. I know Muncy's not playing right now, but he will. He's going to be back. And when that team gets him back, Betts hasn't had the best year of his life or whatever, but you can't tell me that he's not a World Series type player, a playoff guy that you can count on and rely on. Teoscar Hernandez has had a great beginning of the season, and he's fallen off, right? He's just totally fallen off. But that doesn't mean that he won't hit big, at playoff time, because that's what these guys do. I mean, that's who they are. That's what those kind of players are. Similarly, the pitching for them will be the same. You're going to get good pitching in the playoffs from the Dodgers. You're going to get great starting pitching from those guys. So my concern with the Padres is that their starting pitching doesn't match up to what the Dodgers can do. I think player for player on the field, they can match up halfway decent and do pretty good. I'm a little worried about Jackson Merrill, who has been out for a little while now, and he's been hurt some. But he's a great player, but I mean, he hasn't done much to help them right now. I think Bogart's picked up and has done well, and them getting Lariano was a great move for them. So I mean, that's all helpful. So that works for me. The bullpen is good, right? So I like all of those functions. But at the same time as all that, how many playoff games has Shildt managed? I don't know that he's managed a whole lot. I mean, hardly any.
Last year, didn't he manage again? Didn't they lose to the Dodgers last year?
Yeah, but prior to that, right, he was with St. Louis and maybe made one series run in there, and he got knocked out there. I mean, it's – and I'm not saying anything negative. I'm just saying, experience matters when you get to these games. Ask the Brewers. The Brewers have been there in the playoffs for the last couple seasons, right? They're the fighting Goliath every season, all the time, and they just can't get over the hump, because you got to have the right scenarios, the right stuff, the right things. Now, this year's team's a little different than the other year's teams. Maybe they hit a little better this year than they had in the past, and maybe their pitching's been halfway decent, and their bullpen's even better maybe than what it's normally been. I don't know. I still think that when you start to think about it, my power rating numbers and all that stuff comes out. Dodgers are still the best team. And then I have Phillies right there. And to be honest, the Cubs are right there. Now the Cubs and the Brewers, in my mind, are interchangeable to me. They're the same team in terms of win percentage, and I get it. The Brewers went out and won all those games, and that puts them ahead of the Cubs. But statistically and breakdown wise, I don't really think that that's true. Power rating wise, now they beat the Cubs quite a bit, but we'll see how all that plays out as it goes forward. And I've said this all season, if you remember, the Cubs don't have any pitching to match up to anybody's. They're just going to have a hard time trying to go. Cade Horton's been as good as it gets for them with, the lefties, the older lefty guy. Fuck, I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. But he's been around forever. Was hurt and was a Detroit Tiger and stuff. So anyway, as the Cubs go, they're not going to match up. The back end, the bullpen doesn't match up to San Diego, doesn't match up to the Dodgers, doesn't match up to the Phillies. So I think the biggest problem for any of those teams is Zach Wheeler's injury. Mm-hmm. Zach Wheeler's injury is a major, major issue that you can't overcome. I mean, I get it. They get Aaron Nola back, but Aaron Nola, at this time in his career and coming off injury and doing different things himself, is not Zach Wheeler. He's not, Ranger Suarez. You know what I mean? Like, he's not in that caliber at all. He's better than Ty Walker, but you know what I mean? So I get that, but he's not going to be the guy that's going to come in and be able to match up in those spots. I like the Phillies in the East. I mean, I don't think there's any question that over the course of the season they've proved themselves to be better than the Mets. I think that's their team's deeper, their pitching's deeper. Them going out and getting Duran was a great move for them. So I think that obviously the Phillies are better. I think the Mets went out and did some stuff, and their bullpen isn't any necessarily better than it was. Just like the Yankees bullpen's maybe even worse than what it was. So I think it's kind of interesting how that stuff played out. But the team that has, of the playoff contender teams, the team that has the easiest road left is the San Diego Padres. They have the easiest schedule. They play 3 against the Brewers, 3 against the Mariners, 3 against the Mets, and 3 against the Reds. That's their toughest games. They play 7 against the Rockies, 3 against the White Sox, 3 against the Twins, 3 against the Orioles, and 3 against the Diamondbacks. Those are all teams that are going to be. I mean, they got 7 games against the Rockies left, right? And if you look at the standings and you go, let's look at it from a perspective of last 30 games. They're playing the Twins in part of that, and the Twins are 11-19 in the last 30 games. That's the worst record in Major League Baseball, with the Giants, the Rays, and the White Sox are 12-18, and they're playing them too. So San Diego has a pretty easy way in terms of who they have left to play to get there. So that, and then I'm not saying the Dodgers have a tough road to hoe, because they're 26th on this list, which makes them the 5th easiest schedule. They play the Phillies, the Mariners, and the Reds. Those are the toughest teams they got left, and they play 9 games against those teams. They just only have 3 against the Rockies, 3 against the Pirates, 3 against the Orioles. They have 7 against the Giants, and obviously the Giants haven't been but that's a rivalry game. So that's, anything can happen in that series. So that's a little tougher for them. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Padres win this division based on what I'm looking at. And then the Dodgers having to win the play-in game, whatever, and shit. Anything can happen in that, and then at the same time, that throws off your pitching rotation, right? So, that could put the Dodgers in a deficit here, which could mean then that some of those teams like the Padres, the Brewers, the Phillies in particular, maybe that gives them a little bit of an edge over a team like the Dodgers.
Friday, we'll break down the American League. The Red Sox telling Walker Buehler, hey, you got to figure this thing out in the bullpen. And we've seen enough. And Brian Bello has been phenomenal. So I'm not saying Crochet Bello is the next coming to Pedro Schilling here, but those two have pitched very, very well. Giolito has held his own, but again, there's issues there. Again, in the playoffs, especially early, it's a 3-man rotation and a bullpen situation. Is the Crochet Bello question mark enough to get the Sox potentially through a couple rounds?
Sure. But like, who has the most dominant starting pitching in the American League right now? I mean, when you start to think about it, like the Yankees are going to put Fried and Rodon out there, right? I mean, that's. But Fried in the back half has not been like the Fried in the first half. Fried in the first half was unhittable. I mean, he was a 1 earned run average or whatever and all that. Rodon's been better than Fried. But both of those guys can be had. We've seen that. And then when you start to think about the Tigers, okay, well, the Tigers have Skubal. Okay, well, Skubal's going to win. But they don't have anybody else. I mean, look at Flaherty. Flaherty got bombed yesterday, and he gets bombed almost every game he starts. And he's pitched, I think it's 17 and 18, 7 and 18 in team starts for the Tigers. 7 wins, 18 losses. They don't have anybody else that's going to, match up. And then you can look at Houston, and Houston's got 2 guys that can pitch. They've got Brown and Valdez. Those 2 guys are going to be a little bit more difficult to match up to. Now, having said that, offensively, they're not quite the same, although Alvarez is going to be back this week. So we'll see what that looks like for that lineup, because if Alvarez comes back and starts hitting home runs, I think that's pretty good for them. I would say their bullpen has been taxed to the point where it's fallen apart. Hader now being out is a big problem for that team, and it shows. Seattle has started to hit again a little bit, so we'll see what happens with them. They have starting pitching, but at the beginning of the season, you talk about Gilbert and you talk about these guys, Kirby and Castillo and Miller and Wu, right? Oh, this is a great pitching staff. Okay, but it really hasn't come to fruition in terms of. So I talk about war guys, right? So Philadelphia is starting a war guy today in Sanchez. He's a 5.1, 5.2 war guy. There's not very many 5 war guys out there. Wheeler's a 5-point-something war guy. Sanchez or Suarez is an over 3 war guy. So you start to look at it and you go, well, holy crap, that's pretty good. There's not a 5 war guy on Seattle's team. Not only that, there's not a 4. Brandon Wu is a 3.3 kind of war guy. Everybody else is in the 2s. So where's this huge, great starting rotation that they have? What it means is that those guys can go out and they can go 4 innings, 5 innings, 6 innings, or whatever. They're decent, but they're not elite. So that means they can get hit. And I don't think that matches up to what Houston provides. The Texas Rangers have 2 guys. They have Evaldi, who's over a 4 guy, and DeGrom, who's almost a 4 guy because he's kind of fallen back a little bit. So the when you ask about like the Red Sox, Crochet, he's like a 6 war guy. But there's only, Skubal's better than him, but hardly anybody else is. So, he's kind of like the guy for the Pirates, right? Paul Skeens, right? They're kind of like that. He's that good. Okay, so I get it. You have a drop off to Bello, but you're going to have a drop off to anybody. But Bello is getting closer to being like a 3 war guy, maybe a little bit more. So in Crochet, or not Crochet, but Giolito, he's kind of like a 1.7 war guy. So when you start to think about what they've got, it really, those top 2 guys are good enough to help carry them. Their bullpen, even they've got a great closer, and kind of in between, they just have to piece everything together to get there. But they can do it. I think they're competitive. I don't think that they would be the favorite to win, but I just think that the Royals get to a point where they don't make it, and the Guardians are theoretically already out. How can you be in the race and be 2-8 in the last 10, right? So I don't think they're going to get there. I think the Royals are competitive, and they're going to have to try to beat. They're going to have to beat somebody. Are they good enough to beat Seattle? I don't think they are. Seattle's got good enough pitching. We just talked about it. They're not elite pitching, but they're good enough. And that's what Kansas City, right? Kansas City's got. Do you know who their best pitcher is? It's Waka. Waka's their best pitcher. So if Waka goes and matches up with all these guys, he can be behind any of them. So it's kind of like, all right, well, they don't have Bubik, and they don't have, although what's his name, the left-handed hard throwing kid, Reagan's is going to be back. I think he's back within the next week or so. We'll see what that looks like for them, because that might be a shot in the arm that they need, so that they don't have to throw Lorenz in or whoever. You know what I mean? Like they can get by with doing stuff like that, be better, and be a little more competitive. The problem is always the same with the Royals. It's the same with the Guardians. It's the same with all these teams in that division. They can't hit. They have Bobby Witt Jr. Sal Perez hits a home run every once in a while. Sasquatch hits a home run every once in a while. And they have the guy at third base. Garcia's been really good for them, Miguel Garcia, but he's not been the most productive guy in the world. But you gotta have more offense than what they can throw at you to beat a team like the Boston Red Sox. To beat them out, to beat Seattle, you're going to have to score a lot of runs. And I get it. Kansas City's been hitting right now, but we'll see what that looks like as they start to face some of these better pitchers and some of the stuff that they got to go down the road. But again, my opinion is going to be is that this stuff's not going to change. I think I said it last week and the week before that. It's too much. Like, there's 30 games left. If you go 20-10 and your opponent goes 16-14, you made up 4 games. That's enough, but oh my God, it's enough for the Reds, right? They could make up 1.5 games and be there. But I don't know. Like, the Reds have the same problem the Royals do. They got guys that can pitch, like Green's pitching today. He's I think this is his 3rd start off the injured list, and he's been really good. So if he's really good again today, and Sheehan's just good enough, I mean the Dodgers can still win because the Reds can't score. So it's those kinds of problems that these baseball teams have, and the teams that play on the road. I don't think that we take enough away from what they do, and there's very few teams that are really good on the road. Very few.
Going back to Kansas City, that's not Saberhagen Gubas with Quisenberry coming out of the back end there, number one. Number two, an amazing stat I heard this morning. First, shout out to Cal Raleigh, 48 and 49 homers. Where did he come from this year? Almost like Brady Anderson, hits 50 homers, but Cal had some last year, so I'm only being a little sarcastic there. Listen to this stat. Paul Skeen started for his 50th time in his career. 42 of his first 50 starts, 2 runs or less. Think about that for a second. 50 starts, 42 of them, 2 runs or less.
How about this one? He has 50 starts and 66 earned runs.
That's Pedro-esque here. No, that's Pedro-esque here.
So in the first 50 starts, Vita Blue has an earned run average of 2.02 and Skeens is 2.03, something like that.
Vita Blue, man. I remember those A's was like the real first team that I remember Joe Garagiola and the Dodgers talking on Saturday baseball, and then introduced to the Reds, and of course 75 Reds and Red Sox there. Lastly, before I bring you up, a lot of great talks here, Scotty. Something I never, ever, ever thought, and it's going to happen. Adley Rutschman, the next coming to some people compared to Johnny Bench. Baltimore pays the extension to the new kid on the block. The buzz of us talking in December and the hot, the hot stoves from whatever hotel. Adley's going somewhere. Can you imagine a team that's just a catcher away has an opportunity this winter to get Johnny Bench?
Well, how many good catchers are there? I mean, I was listening to that game last night, and I can't stand some of the times these guys talking on those broadcasts. But they were talking about what a catcher's worth is, and they were talking about framing and how important framing is and all that stuff. Well, I got news for you. When they go to the ABS system and you got automatic balls and strikes, it don't matter what a catcher's framing is. Because you can challenge whatever pitch you want, you know what I mean? Like I get it. You can't go challenge every pitch because slow everything down, but it's going to be much less. And then they were talking about they still got to call the game, and they got to do this and manage the pitching staff and all that stuff. And then they were like, well, blocking's the least thing on the list. And I'm going, okay, I don't want to hear these guys talk anymore. Because the reality of it is maybe some of that is true. If I go, let's see, what happened here? Let's go look at one thing. I want to go look at, let's go players, batting. Let's go positions. Let's go to, come on, positions, catchers. So if I go look at the catchers that are in the qualified catchers, Will Smith is the best catcher listed on here based on batting, right? He's hitting, which also includes defense because there's WAR in there, defense WAR and all that stuff. Right? So his WAR is 3.7. Alejandro Kirk is number 2. Now Alejandro Kirk doesn't hit at all. His offensive WAR is 1.5 and Will Smith's is 22. That's the difference. But his defensive WAR is 18.7 and Will Smith is 1. So that's the difference between those two. And then you still got JT Realmuto, Hunter Goodman, Langeliers, Ryan Jeffers. Right now, Cal Raleigh is listed 10th, by the way, on this list. Of catchers. Okay, let's go to WAR. And that was based on batting average. But if they change it to WAR, then Cal Raleigh's number 1, Will Smith, William Contreras is up on that list. He's kind of balanced. He's the only one that's really kind of balanced. So that's pretty good for him. Shea Langeliers is all offense, no defense. But if I go and change this to, say, we'll give him, 80 at-bats or something. Then you start running into, because of part-time guys, because they split this stuff up anymore. Then you get Dylan Dingler in there from Detroit, right? He's 4th best catcher in all of baseball. And that's because of defensive catcher. So Austin Wells is listed at 12th. Navarez is listed at 7th. So
doesn't he lead the MLB in throwouts to second base? I thought I heard last week. He was the best.
I can probably find that.
He was leading the MLB last week, I think they said. He had just thrown someone out. Maybe they were on Saturday afternoon baseball or something.
Let's see. Defensive run save minus. I don't know. I don't have that stat on here. I could probably get that stat. Arm range, FRV standard. I wonder if this has it on there. Where's like stolen bases, caught stealings, right? That's probably where it would be.
Yes.
So caught stealings. Will Smith has 25 caught stealings, and Carlos Navarez has 25 caught stealings, and JT Realmuto 23, Sean Murphy 23, Bo Naylor 23, and William Contreras 20, Cal Raleigh 20, and Pedro Pajes from St. Louis 20, and Dylan Dingler 20. That's not bad. I mean, 20 is probably pretty good.
Well, getting back to Rushman, Scotty. So again, you're going to have the naysayers So, you're going to have your outliers, your JT Realmutos, who's been good. You have your outlier with Cal Riley. You got your defensive catchers with Navarro. You got the kid coming up from Baltimore. My point is, you can try to sell him short. If I was a GM, listen, Adley just hasn't made the next step. I mean, we were expecting 20, 25 homers at some point here last year or this year. It just hasn't happened. I mean, the Baltimore team as a whole has sucked ass. And my point is, if I'm a GM and you're going to dangle a generational, I mean, what he is in the clubhouse, never mind his potential. Maybe I'm overpricing him here, Scotty. He's worth a lot to me.
All right, so his rookie season was 2022. He played 113 games, so it wasn't the full season. He kind of came on a little later, but
Okay, yeah.
And his offensive WAR was 18.9, defensive WAR 13.1, 4.9 WAR. That's really good, right? His first full season, 2023, played 154 games. 18.9 offensive WAR, defensive WAR 12.3, 5.4 WAR for the whole season. Again, really good. 2024 played the full season. His offensive WAR minus 1.7 and his defensive WAR 6.2. He was only 2.7 WAR guy last year. And then this year, he's played half the season, played 85 games. He's a minus 4.5 offensive WAR, defensive WAR 4. He's a 1.2 WAR guy. So the trend is going the wrong way. Now, I will say one of the things that Zips projections does, it's going to project out the next 3 years for him. So I have that information. How about that? So in 2025, they're saying he's going to be a 5.1 WAR guy, 2026, 4.9, and 2027, 4.8. So they're not buying it. So that tells me that this is a guy that is in need of a position change.
Okay.
And my thought would be is, first base. They don't have a they don't have a first baseman there. So I mean Mountcastle's their first baseman and Mountcastle's average at best. So and I get it. He's a young player that they thought was going to be great. Kobe Mayo they want to play, but he hasn't been anything good either. So put Adley Rutschman there if that's what you want to do, or have somebody trade the world to you and you can get some pitching or whatever you need to help your team out. They need a closer now too because Bautista's done for all of next year. So he's that's a weird dynamic for that team because that if you remember that team, the Baltimore Orioles were a 100 game losing team. When they called Adley Rutschman up, it changed. He changed the face of that franchise. And my opinion would be is if you're going to treat this kid that way, that's pretty bad because of what he really meant to Baltimore and that franchise and what he can do for them. I think that's kind of bad. Now that said, performance is a big deal, and I'm not saying this other kid that they got's going to be any good either, Benolito or whatever his name is. He's just a great prospect, and he's off to a halfway decent start for the season, but. We'll see how that turns out. Maybe if he turns into Yadi Molina, that would be a great move for them. But how many people are going to do that? So there you go. I mean, like Adley Rutschman, he's athletic enough, in my opinion, to be able to play other places. He's a great bat to have in the lineup in terms of he's a switch hitter. I don't know if, like, when you watch this team play, I don't understand their batting lineup in the first place. Like, I get it. They have Jackson Holliday as a leadoff hitter, right? Well, what does Jackson Holliday do? He's not like an on-base guru. He's an average player at best at this point in his career. He's hit 15 home runs. Well, that's just average what Major League Baseball does. His OPS is below average. So, and then the next guy, like yesterday's lineup, they had this guy named Jackson playing center field or whatever. He was batting second. And, that's another guy that's basically an automatic out. They got guys batting 7, 8, and 9 who are automatic outs, all three of them. So it puts a lot of pressure then on the shortstop, Henderson. and and Mountcastle and Colton Cowser and those guys to really deliver for this team, because all those guys they were highly touting, saying they're great. Gunnar Henderson has been good. Adley Rutschman's been good up to a point. And Jackson Holliday's been just a young kid trying to figure it out. Does that mean that he's going to be bad? I don't think so. But I don't. He's, maybe they don't have a good leadoff type hitter, but I remember, the Phillies using Schwarber as a leadoff hitter, right? I mean, sometimes you got to think out of the box. Put your guys up there that, maybe Henderson needs to be the leadoff guy. I don't know. I'm just making up stuff, but put your guys in the right spots to do the damage that they can do to help your team win. And I'm not sure that managers are 100% doing that, especially on losing teams like this. I am really noticing a lot of lineups that are OPS driven now. They're certainly not batting average driven. They're OPS driven. So look at the lineups in the batting order. They're kind of all in the order of OPS. Your better OPS guys are batting first, second, third, fourth in the lineup. And it's the same way all the way down. So 5, 6, 7, 8 OPS, bang, 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 bang. And OPS is a good measure. It's a good measure of productivity. When you start to see it, you sit there and go, wow, now I understand why certain things are the way they are. Like there's a guy that plays for the Marlins, Xavier, whatever his name is, something Xavier. And his batting average is like 280, but he's below average on OPS. I mean, so that tells you that productivity-wise, he shouldn't be in a spot where you're counting on productivity, even though he bats 280. Well, what does that mean? It means he hits the ball, moves it in play, doesn't strike out that much. So what's the value to that? Well, there isn't any if he's not productive, So I think as you're moving these things around and kind of looking at lineups and construction of batting order, it's a different beast anymore. And I used to get all crazy when I used to see things like, well, remember back in the day, your best hitter batted third. And your home run hitter batted fourth. You had a guy that could move guys over batting second and a great guy to get on base batted first. And then you had a kind of RBI guy batted fifth. And then you sort of started it over at batting sixth, seventh, and eighth, right? I mean, that's kind of how it worked. Now, the way it really is your best hitters bat first and second in the order. And the reason they do that is so that they get an extra at bat. You want them to bat as many times in the season as they can. And then hopefully have productive guys behind them. Like, I try to figure out sometimes what, like the Dodgers do, like, why does Ohtani bat first? Well, think about it. Do you really want to face Ohtani, the very first batter of the game? And like that's a pretty rough thing, right? Oh yeah, I would like to break into this game and face, I don't know, Call or somebody, the outfielder, and bat him first, and then put Ohtani in there, and then Betts, and then Freeman, and then all the big hitters, right? So I kind of like the idea of that's kind of scary, right? To start these guys off with bang, 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 and kind of go in that order like that. So I don't know. I'm still kind of either side of that, but OPS is driving the productivity, is driving the batting order and the arrangement as they kind of go, and see how it goes. Like some of these teams still need RBI guys. I mean, they need proven guys that can drive in the runs.
We're 45 minutes deep. Do you want to come front and center for 10 to 15 minutes to break down a few games today?
We can. I mean, I've done all the work. There's not very many real games to break down, so we can do that.
All right. Give me a second, Scott.
Hey, Matt T, how you doing, brother? Thanks for coming on. It says, hey, Scott, please lie to me and tell me the Kansas City Royals will get in. Well, kind of already talked about it a little bit. They have a chance, but I can lie to you and tell you they'll make it in. I certainly can do that because my opinion will be is that the Kansas City Royals, um, um, yes, they can get in, but they're 3.5 games behind Seattle. 4 games behind the Yankees, and then 4.5, 5 games behind Boston. Now that does, that's not a lot of games, but think of it this way. Say the Kansas City Royals go 20-10. Well, that's pretty good. I mean, that's 667 winning percentage, 20-10. That's 10 games over 500. All right. Well, say the Yankees go 15-15, and say the Boston goes 15-15. So they made up 5 games on those two teams. That's not enough. So if they do that and Seattle goes 15-15, then that's enough to get over that hurdle. But what if Seattle goes 16-14 or 17-13? That's the problem. The problem is that these teams are good enough teams that they can be 17-13, 18-12, and then the Royals, and they went 20-5, or 20-10. I'm sorry. So, and 20-10 is that's as good as it gets these days. So, I'm telling you, it's really hard. That doesn't mean that it can't happen, but I think it would be very difficult for it to happen. So, but I can lie to you and tell you, that they can get in. I think that there's a possibility, but I think it's pretty small. Anyway, thank you for chiming in there, Matt. So today's games, we have what I think there's 11, 13. What is it? Where's my get to my good stuff over here? Starting pitchers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13. I think just briefly, as we get going towards the playoffs, you really want to find good value or pass, right? So like I made a bet on Saturday. I bet on the Oakland A's against the Twins and Sacramento A's or whatever, and won that game. Yesterday, that's not true. Friday I did that. Saturday I won a college football game, and then yesterday I won a baseball game. So that was good. Yesterday I was on the Orioles. So today when I started to look at this stuff, you got to kind of know what's happening, right? So Boston just came off the loss to the Yankees, but that's a good series for them. They won 3 out of 4, and that's the Sunday night game. Now they're traveling to go play Baltimore in Baltimore, and it's the first game of the day. So they go from the last game last night to the first game tonight. The travel though from New York to Baltimore is not the worst in the world. But they still didn't get in until later. But this is a veteran team. They kind of should be able to handle some of that. They're starting a guy who pitched last night. Bernardino is going to pitch, but typically he's going to pitch 1 inning. Like he's a traditional 1-inning opener guy. And then Fitz is going to pitch. So Fitz is the bulk guy. He's going to throw, say, 4 innings, maybe 5 innings. But he's not been real good statistically, numbers-wise. I put the data in because it's not he hasn't pitched but like 4 innings in the last 30 days, something like that, maybe 6 innings. No, 4 innings. And then so I put in his whole back half of the season in there, and it's not still that many. And he's got a 4.8 Sierra number. His FIP number is an 8. Now, the reason that his FIP number is an 8, now remember, FIP is fielding independent pitching. All that means is what's the pitcher's ability to pitch without a defense? So in other words, I don't care about balls that are put in play. I don't care about any of that stuff. We're going to measure walks, strikeouts, home runs. And that's all FIP does, right? It's fielding independent pitching. It measures what a pitcher can do to control the game on the mound. So you want a pitcher that can limit home runs, not give up walks, and strike out everybody. That's the idea. And his is 8.02. Of the games I did, it's the second worst of all of them. And where that comes from is he's given up 3.68 home runs per 9 innings. So he gives up the long ball, and that's not necessarily a good thing to be, throwing your hat around. If you want to look at like his game score, he has started a few games all season. It's a 43 for the whole year, so that's below average by far. So I don't know where we were going to go here with this game. My Sugano, right? And I say that as a kind of a weird thing because I didn't really realize this. Sugano, he's got terrible stuff. Like his pitcher plus number, or his stuff rating is a 94. There is a couple guys at 91 and 93 today, so he's one of the worst ones with stuff, meaning that his ball doesn't move as much as maybe it could, and the spin rate and all that stuff, velocity. And he's an older Japanese pitcher, but over the last 30 days, this guy's found a way to pitch. Like, not just found a way, he's been really good. His pitching plus number is 106. It's one of the better ones today. And his last 7 game scores, his average is 55. Okay, average for Major League Baseball is 50, 51. So he's above average pitcher, pitching pretty well. So his last start was a 59, and then 62, 68, 53, 62. That's pretty good. Like, that's what aces do. That's good stuff. Now, his last game was against Boston. So Boston's just seen him. So I think that favors Boston. And I also think Fitz has not pitched in a while, so maybe he's got pretty good stuff going on. I don't know what to tell you. So when I looked at it from a perspective of offense, betting value runs above average. Boston's right now is basically a 0. It's minus 0.1. Their weighted runs created plus is 0. They rank 13th in offense. Baltimore ranks 10th in offense. They're 16th in isolated power, so they're hitting home runs. They're 17% better than an average offense. So Baltimore's offense has been a little better than what Boston's has. So that's sort of interesting because not only that, but it's a home game for Baltimore. Baltimore gets a lift at home that's kind of sizable. It's 14%, meaning that weighted runs created plus is 114 at home for Baltimore. So as this kind of plays out and it comes together, the listed odds that I saw right before was minus 109 for Boston, and I've got plus 102 for Baltimore. My number was minus 112 for Boston, and bet score came out to be a little bit in favor toward Baltimore because of their offense and the pitcher's been better. So there's a very, very small percentage chance agreement here that Baltimore might be the better side to bet. Now, that said, I wouldn't be betting this game because it's kind of almost neutral. You want a better edge than that. Atlanta, Miami is interesting, and it's interesting because I don't know how many people know, but Strider is struggling like mightily. His last 7 starts is a game score not 50 average, not just below. It's a 32. His last start was skipped, and then he had a game score 5, game score 4, 23, 49, 40. That's his last stuff. And he's going to face Miami today. Miami's not been hitting as well as they had been. Stowers is hurt, and some of those guys. But his SIERA number's a 5. His 8.27 FIP number. Remember, we just talked about FIP. That's the worst one of the day, and that's because he's a 3.78 home runs guy. His batting average against, and we don't talk about batting average that much, but his batting average against is 434. Almost half the guys that come up to bat against Strider get a base hit. That's what it means. So how do you bet on Atlanta? You don't. And Cabrera has been decent, and he's off a game score 30. So I would expect Cabrera to pitch better today. And my opinion in this game would be small edge to take the plus side. It's not much. It's 101, 110, whatever you can get on Miami today. I think is probably a better spot for them. One of the games I think that is worth betting, that has a better edge to it. This is Tampa Bay and Cleveland, and Cleveland's really bad right now. Cleveland has lost. Where are they? There they are. Cleveland is 2-8 in the last 10 games, and that's significant because Cleveland's a team that was right in the playoff picture with the Royals, and now they've just kind of fallen way out. And the Royals are at least still maintaining. So they're in a bad spot. They're 2-8. Now the Rays haven't been great over the last 30, but they're starting to pick it up a little. They're 5-5. But Bybee is pitching for the Guardians. The best pitcher they got. At home, he's been pretty decent, but at night, he's above average. The last 28 days, he's a 147 OPS plus. So OPS plus measures how the pitcher handles the opponent's offense, not FIP wise, right? FIP was, just home. But this talks about balls in play and stuff like that. So he is a 142. So he's 42% worse than an average pitcher in the last 30 days. So I don't like that. But Seymour's pitching for the Rays. So what does that mean? Well, this is his first start, but he's a bulk reliever guy. So he's used to pitching 3-4 innings. So you're going to see him go 3-4 innings. Maybe he can stretch out to 5, depending upon what happens. But he's been really good. 2.86 Sierra number. And Bybee's a 406 Sierra number. So you're a 1-run advantage there. And both of the guys can strike people out. So that was interesting. And then when I looked at the offense, it's not even close. Tampa Bay's offense ranks 7th right now. Isolated power, they rank 9th. They are 30% better than an average team. And betting run values is 8 runs better than an average team. And then Cleveland, they are 30th in offense, 30th in isolated power. They are 68% worse than an average offense right now, and 16 runs worse than an average offense. Their lift at home is negative 8%. So I don't like what Cleveland can do on offense at all. And so I started thinking about, okay, well, maybe this should just be a first 5. But when I looked at the bullpen for Tampa Bay is the best going right now. They have a 2.86 Sierra number, 2.86 FIP, 2.48 Sierra number, 11.45 strikeout rate. So it's hard to get on base against them, and then they strike everybody out. And when it comes to WPA and their clutch performance, they're both positive numbers, which means that when they need to make those outs to make the game go their way, they do. So I like their bullpen as it's going right this minute. I think they can win this game. I don't see anything that's saying that I should be betting on Cleveland. And this has got a little bigger margin there. My number was Cleveland minus 119. I'm seeing minus 111. So my spread numbers say Cleveland probably is a little bit of value here. But bet score wise comes out 60 points for Tampa Bay, 0, no points at all for Cleveland. So that tells you how bad they're playing. And this is their first home game back from being on the road out west. So we'll see how that turns around for them. But I don't think in the first game you'll probably have a carryover effect. And I think Tampa Bay can go out and win this game. So I like Tampa Bay in that one. Washington, New York, I'm just going to skip this. All I will tell you is Schlittler's off of his best start, so I wouldn't expect him to have the best start that he's had before. And Lord has been pitching really good for the Nationals. That's all I'm going to say. I don't have an opinion on the game. I didn't handicap the game. Once they get to a point where I don't want to bet them because of the line, I'm just leaving them off. Minnesota and Toronto was interesting because Joe Ryan is a good pitcher. Joe Ryan's an ace kind of pitcher. But the Twins are one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. And they're playing Toronto, who's got a great home record, and they play super good at home. And this is going to be Scherzer. Well, Scherzer's not Ryan. Ryan's better than Scherzer. But how does that kind of match up? Well, it matches up to the point in which, if I go to my bet score here, Joe Ryan gets points for Sierra, and he gets points for his game score. and Scherzer gets points for his game score and for WPA. So pitcher-wise, it's 25-15 in favor of Minnesota. Offensively, Toronto stopped hitting, but they were on the road, so we'll see how this kind of changes as they go to the home. But they stopped hitting, so both teams get 0 points. Toronto gets a little bit more for the bullpen, and then they get a little bit more ancillary stuff. So this is kind of a pick-em kind of game handicap-wise. And then it's just, but you've got a better pitcher in Joe Ryan. So maybe there's a little value on Minnesota, but I'm not doing that. I think that would be a mistake because Minnesota, they've kind of packed it in. Watch them play. They've packed it in. They're a good go against team the rest of the season. They don't look good to me. But I think that's too big a value there. Minus 136 for Toronto is too high. If I was going to play Toronto, I'd probably play him more pick 'em related or minus 120, something like that. Maybe 115. My number actually says Minnesota should be favored up with Joe Ryan. So Philadelphia and the Mets, look, this is easy for me to explain. So Philadelphia is the better team by a couple games. So that means that they're going to have a better winning percentage by a little bit. But Christopher Suarez is a 5.1, 5.2 WAR guy. I know there's probably a lot of fans that are kin to what's his name? Senga, yeah, K.I. Senga fans. K.I. Senga, he's not a 2 WAR guy this season. He's not. He may be a 2 at the most. I think he's more like a 1.8, something like that. So when you have a 5 and a 1.8, you've got a pitcher that's almost 3 times better than the other one. 3 times better than the other one. Plus, your team wins more games than the other team. Now, that puts Philadelphia in a spot where they're big favorites. So what's interesting to me in this game is not that the Philadelphia is big favorites. It's Sanchez has got a 2.20 Sierra number going into this game. Senga has a 5.23 number. That's terrible. And he's got a 6.57 FIP number. Do you know that he's walking 5.25 guys per 9 innings? You want to go walk the Phillies, you're going to get in trouble. And he's given up 2.25 home runs. He's just got traffic all the time. And what surprised me too was Sanchez is a ground ball guy. I mean, he's like 60% ground ball outs. But as of his last 90 days, 90 days, 30 days, it's only 46%. So it's not been as high. But his WPA is positive 0.71, meaning that when he needs to get the out, when he needs to get the winning percent added, he does. Senga is minus 0.75. So you don't want to bet on negative WPA guys, and you want to bet on positive ones. So that puts me in a spot where I sit there and go, okay, this is probably going to be Philadelphia or nothing. So then when I looked at the offense, what was crazy? These offenses are just blowing everybody out of the water. Philadelphia ranks number 1 in offense, and Mets number 2. And then isolated power, the Mets are number 2 and Philadelphia's number 4. Philadelphia is 70% better than an average offense right now. The Mets are 63% better than an average offense. When it comes to betting value runs, the Phillies are 21 runs better than average, and the Mets are 19 runs better than average. Not much difference between the two. But there's a huge difference in the starting pitcher. Then, when I looked at it, when you look at the bullpen, there's a big difference in the bullpen. The Phillies bullpen is better. So I think that counteracts what the Mets offense is. The Phillies pitching can counteract what that is. So my numbers come out, and I have it a bigger favorite for Philadelphia than what they are. Philadelphia is minus 125 at ProfitX. So I'm like, okay, 125, that's value. I have it at 160. So I think Suarez should be a much bigger favorite than what he is. then that provides the biggest value opportunity of the day to me was the Phillies. So I think the Phillies are a great bet. Arizona and Milwaukee, I'm not going to go here. I didn't even handicap the game. It's in the minus 160s, minus 170s. You got Woodruff at home. I think he's a good pitcher. And then you got Rodriguez, who's good at times for Arizona. But yeah, I think Milwaukee at home is just too good, and they're very good against left-handed pitching. And then another game that I thought was interesting, Kansas City plays the White Sox, and I think because of what the White Sox have been doing, they're getting way too much credit. I mean, they just are. My number in this game is Kansas City minus 160 with Cameron on the mound, and you can get them at minus 128. That was the last number that I saw at ProfitX. So there's value there. And then when you start doing the game's bet score, Kansas City comes out a little bit ahead. I think Kansas City's a good bet here tonight at minus 120, 125, 120, whatever, minus 130 even. So you have Cameron, who's pitching for Kansas City. But did you know that Smith is pitching for the White Sox? He's made 22 starts. In those 22 starts, the White Sox won 5 times. That's it, 5-17. So you think they're going to beat this team that's playing better? They're 7-3 in the last 10. They're against the White Sox, who are 3-7 in the last 10. The White Sox are 13-18 against left-handed pitching. I think this is a pretty good game for where the Royals are, and the Royals need to win these games. I think they're going to win this game too. So I like the Royals as a bet to go with, say, the Phillies. I like that one. And then in terms of any other games that I thought had value today, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, I don't see any value on either side. McGreevy, he's 6-2, I think. That was kind of a surprising number to me. He is 6-3. Made 9 starts, 6-3. But they're 3-7 in the last 10, but that's because they played on the road. St. Louis is a home team. And Pittsburgh played well at home. They're a terrible road team, like way bad road team. They are how come I didn't put it in there? I did. It's 18 wins, 44 losses for Pittsburgh on the road. 18-44. It's not very good. That's kind of like what the worst teams in baseball are. So I don't like that one. So I kind of left that one alone. Soriano and DeGrom. I think DeGrom's too high of a favorite. I shouldn't say it that way. My number in that game is 161. There was 165, so a little bit too high. I just don't think I'm going to pay minus 160 for the Rangers to beat anybody. So I'm staying off of that game. Seattle was a game I did look at. I think there is value on the Seattle side. Look, I know Sears wasn't good in his first start for San Diego, but he played for the A's. He's pitched against Seattle a lot. They've seen him a lot. So he knows what to do and how to pitch, and he's pitched in that stadium. So I think Seattle is going to struggle a little bit here in this game. I think as I look at it, Miller, who's pitching in his second game off of the disabled list, wasn't good in his first game. I don't necessarily expect him to be as much better in this game. His what's interesting was his Miller's stuff was pretty good, 109, 114. But he threw a game score 37, and it takes 4 or 5 starts to come back off the disabled list to actually be good. So I'm expecting San Diego to have a pretty good day today. And we'll see how that kind of plays out. So I think the value is thin, but I think it's worth looking at, especially on the underdog side. And then Detroit and the A's, again, this is Scooble. I don't know how you bet it. I know there's guys out there that like team totals and guys that like to bet strikeouts and guys that like to bet all these prop stuff. But it's not easy, because the A's are one of the best hitting teams in baseball right now, and they're scoring a lot. So it's kind of hard to figure all that out and play into that. So I just left it alone. I do think there's very, 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 very slim margin to bet Reds tonight. Green is good. He's not just good; he's excellent good. He's good enough to stymie the Dodger bats. The Dodger bats are terrible on the road. You've seen that. They're much better than at home, but this is a good pitcher. So I and Sheehan at the same time, he's an average pitcher at best, and the Reds are an average offense. So I do think that if you wanted to go into the direction of this game, I have it lined at minus 125 and it's 135. So there's a little bit of value there. And I'm not seeing anything that says Green can't be really good against the Dodgers lineup. And I was listening to the Dodger broadcast yesterday, and they were talking about how the Dodgers are not hitting heat. They were talking about fastballs. They were talking about cutters and sinkers. And, they were like 5 for 35 against them. So that's what this guy does. He goes out and throws 100 miles an hour. So I think that that's a good spot for Cincinnati. And Cincinnati's going to need to pick off some of these games to try to catch the Mets, especially if the Mets don't do good against the Phillies. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, Jeff, in terms of what I got, I don't have a lot. I think there's some value with the Phillies. And what was the other one I said? Tampa Bay or Kansas City. I think there's a little bit of value with Kansas City there too. Otherwise, it is what it is. We're on to tomorrow. Oh, you're on mute.
What Bill Belichick used to say, we're on to Cincinnati, right?
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, I saw a look ahead next year where Red Sox open up in Cincinnati against, of course, good friend and colleague, Mr. Tito himself, Terry Francona. Then they go somewhere else, and then they open up at home against the Padres. So maybe we can get you a road trip and you can come up here and we can go enjoy maybe the defending World Series. Hey, maybe that's a World Series preview of this year. Padres versus Red Sox. How's that crap?
Hey, I don't know. What are the Padres going to do in the offseason? They just trade everybody and move stuff around, and who knows what that team's going to look like. What the most disappointing thing to me about the Padres is when they got to play like the Dodgers and they're at home and, they get some of their best pitchers going and they go out there like Pavetta did and walk everybody, can't throw strikes and stuff. That's the most crazy thing to me because it's almost like, and when Cease did it, he did the same thing in the Dodgers, right? When he went up there and he pitched against the Dodgers, he walked the bases loaded and did all that stuff. You're not going to beat good teams by giving the good teams a chance to beat you all the time by putting guys on base. And you're paying these pitchers to be premium pitchers, and they just got to do better. Like, I know Cease is good, but he's not been great this year. His game score is a 50 for the season. That's average. His WAR number is like a 3-something. Pavetta's actually got better WAR numbers and stuff than what Cease does. And, it's too bad, I don't know what Darvish is up to. I don't know what's the matter with him. He's kind of goofy. I don't know what they think they're going to get out of Cortez, even though Cortez pitched pretty good today against the Dodgers. I think they can get some of that out of him, but I hope they don't throw him in the playoffs. And then, it's like Michael King. Well, Michael King's going to be there. He's going to pitch in the playoffs. You watch. He's about ready to come back again. Because he a weird injury, like hurt his calf or something. I don't remember. And he's going to pitch. So they need Michael King, and, they need the one guy who had Tommy John. I forget what's the guy they got from Pittsburgh. And they need those guys to be able to pitch and go, because I think some of those guys have way more heart and way more bulldog in them than like Dylan Cease does. And that, like, Cortez has bulldog in him, he just doesn't know stuff. Like, he gets rocked, and I guess you can't really say it anymore. He's better than Randy, whatever his name is, but Randy, whatever his name is, goes out
Vasquez.
and wins. Randy Vasquez. He goes, whatever he does, he goes out and wins baseball games though, and it's the crazy thing. Like, he's got no juice but they win his starts.
The biggest luck box in the MLB, going back, Pavetta is a bulldog. I had my San Diego guy reach out to me before the season started. What are we going to get for Pavetta? You're going to get a bulldog. You're going to get someone, even without his good stuff, he's going to get you 5. And don't get him into a playoff situation. The guy just, he loves the big stage. Michael King has been the problem. They were expecting a ton for him. The Padres, excuse me, we're trying to get Duran from the Red Sox, and they wanted to give us Cease. Well, Cease is on a contract year, and they were kept trying to peddle us Cease. Now, for the Red Sox, it probably would have made sense. At least you could have got some innings out of Dylan Cease. Cease won't be there next year. Who the hell knows with Darvish? But they need King. They need him. They'll be fine with Pavetta. I don't know. I don't trust Cease as far as I can throw him in the playoffs. You know that. It's a team with veteran leadership with Machado. Tatis is a lightning rod. Bogarts, again, has showed flashes. And their back end is second to none. Listen, there's no excuses with the Padres. Their GM is trying to, and he'll trade his mother. He's not afraid to trade anyone. And so I know you got to beat the Dodgers. I get that. We all get that. On paper, they're the best team. But they've never been more vulnerable than they are right now, Scotty.
Well, I think there's something to be said that way, too, because every team goes through it. This is, if you're the Dodgers, you want to go through it now as opposed to go through it a month from now. You know, like they're not hitting. They're like the 25th best offense. Where's my numbers? Offense. Dodgers. No, they're 11th. Dodgers are 11th right now, 8th in isolated power, but they're 41% worse than an average offense right now. They are 2.4 betting runs above average, so they're an average offense. But that changes at home. They get an almost 30% lift playing at home. They're 128, I think, is what their weighted runs created plus number is at home. Nobody has a bigger one. The Mets are up there. Toronto's up there in terms of, home field edges and stuff like that. Baltimore's even got a bigger one than you might think. But I think that, all these teams go through these things. And if you're the Dodgers, you want Ohtani to be batting bad now. You want Freeman bad now. You want Betts bad now. And then say 3 weeks from now, you want them to turn it on and be hot. Because if they get hot before the playoffs start and then they get hot in the playoffs and through the playoffs, they're going to be so difficult to beat. I mean, because I don't know how many times you can really think about it. Think about their lineup construction. Ohtani, Betts, Freeman. Those are Hall of Famers, Jeff. They're 3 Hall of Fame players. I mean, they really are. So who else can throw 3 Hall of Fame guys, bang, bang, bang? Nobody. I mean, nobody can do that. So if those 3 Hall of Fame guys are hitting, they carry the whole team. They have all the time. Like last year, they did it all the time. This year, they're getting some Teoscar Hernandez at the beginning of the season. And then Max Muncy, when he got hurt and he came back, he started to hit. Pages has over 20 home runs this year. So they're getting some productivity out of some of these other guys. What was the guy they got from the Cardinals? Again, what was that guy's name that at the beginning of the season was hitting home runs? Tommy Edman, right? Tommy Edman. Has anybody even heard of that guy again for the last 3 months? Like Tommy Edman. Now, they went and got a Tommy Edman replacement, it looked like to me, at the trade deadline and call from the Nationals. That's what he is. So all of these guys will be good when the playoff time comes, and their pitchers will be deep. I mean, I know Ohtani's been Ohtani, but in terms on the mound, he has not been the greatest. But he'll be good. So you're gonna have Ohtani be able to go 6 innings. You're gonna have Snell. You're gonna have whatever the hippie kid. You're gonna have him, and you're gonna have Yamamoto. look, they're going to be able to pitch, and they're going to hopefully they're resting their guys. Like they just got Yates back. They got somebody else back from the bullpen. I'm not sure what's going on with the fireballer guy they got from the White Sox in terms of his injury and where he's at. I don't know if he's going to be back or not.
Who's that? Kopech?
Yeah, Kopech. They found him last year and got him, and boy was he good. And he got hurt this year. So if they can get him back and he's good, I mean, their bullpen's going to be excellent again because you just got to give him a rest. Their best bullpen guy last year was a guy named Smith, and they ain't even heard of Smith this year. Where's he at, right? And they got Trinan and all these other guys out there. They're throwing. Kasparius has been one of their big guys out of the bullpen. And you're like, who in the hell are these guys? And then they come out and they just start throwing and doing all this stuff. And Banda's still sticking around doing things that he's supposed to be doing. And Vesia and those guys, I mean, like, they just go get stuff done, and they need a rest. So if you can get them rested, maybe you throw this guy Sheehan's arm off for a while and let those guys get a break. So but the guy I was thinking of in San Diego was Musgrove. Musgrove had Tommy John. That guy's a bulldog kind of pitcher. They need him. Think about their lineup if they had those guys pitching. With King and Musgrove and those guys that can do it. And you don't have to throw the Randy Vasquez's of the world, and you don't have to take a chance on Nasty Nestor and stuff.
Well, listen, as you said, Cortez and Pavetta are bulldogs. Cortez, I think that was his third or fourth shot. He looked great. But again, they have it set up, Scott. You got to get me through the first time through the batting order. And then it gets tricky. Can you get me 3 more outs? Can you get me 6 outs, which then gets us to the bottom of that order? If they're starting 3, can get them through 5, it's a wrap. They'll have a hiccup somewhere. I know that. But my point is, if there's 3 starters / 4th starter can get them through 5, they're going to win some series in the playoffs.
Well, there's no question. Like the Padres have a good bullpen, and the way it's set up is set up to do that. I remember back when the Nationals won the World Series. The guy that helped that team win that was not only the big starter kid, but Corbin. Corbin came out of the bullpen and pitched so many innings and did so well in that role that Corbin helped that team win. Scherzer was hurt.
Strasburg.
Strasburg's the other kid. I kept thinking with a Washburg or something. I kept thinking Washburg. What the hell might have been? So Strasburg, he was the guy that was great for them at that time. And, the guy that played third base now plays for the Angels. I don't remember his name anymore because he don't ever play.
Rendon.
Rendon, he hit like crazy in that series, but that was a team that also had Soto and had that was
Harper.
I don't think Harper was on that team.
So
I don't think he was.
Had he left the building already?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Harper was gone, and it was the swan song sayonara season for the guy that played there the whole time for Washington. The guy was drafted by them, played for them, kind of heavier set. He played third base and played outfield and whatever the hell name he is. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I can't think of his name now.
And he'd been there forever. I mean, he was the only guy, and that's the only team he ever played for, and it was a swan song for him, and he won the World Series, and he went out as a hero and all that stuff. So whatever, it is what it is. I mean, that was
it. What about Schwarber?
Schwarber wasn't there.
Why am I thinking
Schwarber was never a national?
Never a national. No, you're right. We're going down memory lane here. What year was that, Scotty?
I don't know the answer to that either. I can do this. I can go back and go to batting.
Here it is. I got it. 19. Here's their World Series roster.
Zimmerman, Ryan Zimmerman's who I was thinking of. His swan song season, Ryan Zimmerman.
Who else was on there? You talked about Patrick Corbin.
Well, Rendon, Soto, Trey Turner was on that team.
Yep.
Um,
Fernando Rodney, Rosenthal, Yanni Gomes.
Rendon hit 34 home runs. Soto hit 34 home runs. Victor Robles hit 17 home runs. Howie Kendrick was on that team.
Adam Eaton, Robles, Soto, with Zimmerman, Trey Turner, Rendon, Dozier. Matt Adams was on that team as well.
Yeah.
Yanni Gomes.
Kurt
behind the
Suzuki,
plate.
remember him? Kurt Suzuki was on that team.
A true story. Here's a true story. My buddy, let's say one of the offshore accounts. I don't know if it was 5 Crimes / 5 Dimes or the other one there, had some futures on the Nationals, big time. 25, 30,000 if they won it. And he reached out to them and says, hey, I'll hedge here. And so everyone will be happy. They're like, gave him the double fingers. And so we went back and nailed and hammered the Nationals again, game 1 and game 2. If I remember correctly, they won the first 2 on the road, and then the Astros came back, won the next 2. So, but he doubled down on him, and he ended up taking him for like 40 or 50 large. And so he gave him an opportunity, but that was a hell of a series.
You know, it is what it is, right? Sean Doolittle was on that team.
Yep.
Sean Doolittle, right? I don't. Annabelle Sanchez, you remember that? Like, they probably got him off the heap and said, hey, I need you to come back. And then he goes out and throws really good, makes 30 starts. It's like unbelievable. Those guys with, rubber arms and all that shit. Fernando Rodney, you talked about him. Eric Fetty was on that team as a relief pitcher.
I don't think. Actually, I do. I think Rodney did shoot a few bows after he did get a couple saves there.
Well, it says he played 38 games, had 2 saves.
Yep.
For them. Fernando Rodney, for God's sakes. Oh, my God. Whatever. I mean, baseball teams are baseball teams, It's like that is what it is. But that they were Anthony Rendon and Soto. That's who they were. And they had Scherzer and Strasburg. And Corbin was a big help to that team in the playoff run coming out of the bullpen, man.
Want to give a shout out to Matty T. Thank you so much for your questions, your support. Everyone else here, Wager Wire, Team Amber Hawley, and the rest of their crew. Again, big shout out to Cambridge Credit Union, our newest, biggest sponsor for the fall, Chris Viali and the team, Ollie, and everyone else there. Tomorrow, 10:30 a.m., Andrew McGinnis back. We'll talk some CFL, some NHL news if there's anything there. Talk a little NCAA and NFL as well. As we get closer, the closing bell will be back. I reached out to Riley Magnuson. We'll be doing some shows with him starting up, I think, early next week. Me and Scotty talk backstage. We'll be doing some football shows as well. So a lot of stuff coming in. I'm getting the final confirmations for the setup. Matt Grissom, Quentin Mills, SEC Roundtable. We'll be doing some talks with them Wednesday mornings as well. So for myself, Jeff Dawson, at EC Sports Investor, one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. We wish everyone a blessed day. It's a new start to the week, guys. Behave yourself and stay tuned.